fire can destroy everything you've worked so hard for. But there's one person out there who's all about turning things around, getting you back where you belong. Who? Who else? Your Farmers Insurance agent.
That's right.
The BMW 3 Series sedan from $26,970.
We mill wheat into flour, process and refine oil seeds in Mexico, produce sweeteners from corn in the U.S., Brazil, and Europe,
Did you see this?
and operate 19 meat processing facilities in North America,
Yep. And look what they did with it.
where these days there's some good news for everyone. Cargill, it's not just what we do, it's how we do it.
The hair is big, the tube socks are high, and the action is down and dirty.
Can you dig it?
All the moves are on ESPN Classic, roller derby style.
Ouch.
Right on. The forces of good versus some bad.
Shut your mouth.
So join the pack for a crash course in old school. I'm talking roller superstar.
You said it.
Friday and Saturday late nights only on ESPN Classic. To get ESPN Classic, call 1-800-CLASSIC today.
We welcome you back. Our continuing coverage of the '99 NFL Draft, one that will be remembered for the 5 in 12. 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks. And there you see where they ended up. The 5 quarterbacks. We'll talk more about our quarterbacks momentarily. Minnesota, which took Dante Culpepper, is on the clock with their latest selection here at the bottom of the first round. And Commissioner Paul Tagliabue's up with the announcement.
With the 29th pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Demetrius Underwood, defensive end, Michigan State.
As Andrea Kramer clued us in, they go with Underwood, the defensive lineman. That is 3 consecutive Big Ten players. The last 2 defensive, Katzenmoyer, now Underwood, Ohio State, Michigan State, respectively. He becomes the second first-round pick. The first one was, as we talked about, Dante Culpepper. In talking about the quarterbacks, Boomer Esiason and Jim Kelly have been breaking it down for us. Let's look ahead for these guys. What will be the biggest shock for the 5 of them come, let's say, August 8th, 9th, when they played their first preseason game?
You know, I think it's going to be the velocity of the game. I think it's going to be the ferociousness of the game and the all-around trying to understand what is happening to me on the football field. You know, it's got to be, can't be force-fed. It's just got to be taken easy. And a guy like Dante Culpepper sits in the greatest spot of all. He's got Randall, he's got Jeff George, he's got Denny Green, he's got Ray Sherman. There's no pressure on him. You know, the Minnesota Vikings, in my eyes, are the big winner here because they have a player that they don't have to throw out to the wolves right away.
The quickness of the game. I talked to Peyton Manning last year, and that was one of the big things Peyton said. He couldn't believe the quickness. I think going through training camp, you'll know how fast the defensive backs are. Through the preseason, you might think, okay, these guys aren't quite that good, but once Peyton Manning got into the regular season, he could not believe how fast those defensive backs were.
Crystal ball it for me. Given everyone has a little bit of a weakness that has been discussed throughout this draft and leading up to it.
Well, we all had weaknesses, Mike.
Right.
But everybody had flaws. Even Jim had a flaw now and then.
But everybody overcame them depending on how quick they got to play.
Right.
Who do you think will have the best 1999 when we're sitting here in April of 2000?
No, I could say this one. The guy that does not play.
Well, you know, it goes back again to the situations that each of these guys find themselves in.
Sure.
You know, you have McNown in Chicago. You know, it's going to be an interesting deal with Kramer there, but that's a good guy to be behind. I think.
Yeah, it is.
You know, Kramer's will be a good teacher for him.
And that veteran fit's important.
Right, absolutely. And you know, that's another new coaching staff there, so there's no pressure right there right now to win immediately. When you look at Tim Couch and his situation, I think that's a good situation for him. Now, the 2 guys that I have the most difficulty looking at right now are going to be Akili Smith and Donovan McNabb. I feel bad for them because they're in tough situations. I think that they're terrific quarterbacks, but I also think that they're going to have trouble adjusting just because of the situations that they find themselves in.
Especially when you have the top pick in a draft. I mean, when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you know you're going to a team that's not very good.
And like it or not, fair or not, just like Manning and Leaf, these guys will be compared every pass they throw in every season they play
Better believe
in the
it,
NFL.
absolutely.
Guys, thanks. Boomer, see you on Monday
Mike.
Night Football
Thank
during
you.
the year. Jim, see you later, buddy. Thank
See
you, boys.
At the child's table.
Our quarterback buddies, a little quarterback round table. Demetrius Underwood was the latest selection, the Michigan State defensive lineman. Atlanta is now on the clock as we wrap up the first round, and we go back to Chris Berman.
All right, fellas, thank you very much for some intriguing insight. Minnesota went quarterback, the first pick in the first round with Dante Culpepper. And this, Mel, Demetrius Underwood. We didn't hear much from him last year, but I guess there was a good reason.
Good reason he didn't play, Chris. Yeah.
I knew there was a catch.
Great reason. Yeah. High ankle sprain early on during fall practice back in August and did not play. Now, you're looking at the film from his junior year. He had an outstanding junior. He combined with Robert Smith, their other outstanding defensive end, for 20 sacks and 28 tackles for loss. Had 8 tackles against Ohio State, 15 against Notre Dame. So he made his presence felt against top-notch opposition. Productive player in the Big Ten as a sophomore and as a junior. And he's 6'6 1/4", 281 pounds. He was a wrestler at the prep level in North Carolina, so you're looking at a good athlete. The fact of the matter is he did not play this year. Had he played this season, you would have been looking probably the mid-first rounder. But I think because of the fact he sat out the season, a lot of people thought 3rd or 4th round. So you could say it's a reach, but the bottom line, especially taking him ahead of Patrick Kearney, bottom line is, though, the kid's a good football player.
All right. Atlanta Falcons, the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, now up. You would think maybe they need a wide receiver replacement for Tony Martin. To the commissioner.
With the 30th pick, the Atlanta Falcons pick Patrick Kearney, defensive end, Virginia.
Well, that's another dart that landed wrong.
Yeah.
Although Kearney is good value there, yes, Mel?
Yeah, he's great value. He goes 1 pick behind Underwood, who was projected to be a 3 or a 4. So you're talking about great value with Patrick Kearney. You're looking at
Didn't take long for them to make it. They probably couldn't believe he wasn't picked, right?
I think they were surprised that Underwood went ahead of Kearney. But I think when you look at Patrick Kearney, you see him here, 58, a former defenseman on the Virginia lacrosse team. Late developing player, 235, a rangy 235 early on. Now he's up to 265. Very destructive late in the year. 4 sacks against North Carolina. 2 in the Peach Bowl game against Georgia. So he really came on strong as a senior. 21 tackles for loss overall, 15 sacks. He needs some work from a technical standpoint. Added some weight, added some strength. So his best football is ahead, Chris. He really came on strong late this past year. I thought it'd be a mid-first rounder. At this point in the first round, this is a bargain-type pick for the Atlanta Falcons.
It's a bargain pick, not a position of need, certainly. This is the best athlete available situation, Joe, because you know, Atlanta's front 4, they were good enough, and part of the reason they got to the Super Bowl is that they didn't ask for help from the back 7. They handled things by themselves. So, best athlete available.
Best athlete available. Plus, the Falcons pick up Chris Callaway to plug the hole at wide receiver till they can come along. Lester Archambault there with 10 sacks. You see Travis Hall in and out, hurt a little bit. Shane Dronette and Chuck Smith having a terrific year at 8.5 sacks. The thing you have to look at, and we saw the Green Bay Packers do it. You see Mike Holmgren do it in Seattle. What you do is you start to add some depth to that defensive line. In Green Bay, they're doing it to the secondary. In Seattle, it's defensive line. Because you get a chance to get a lot more players on the field and you keep them a lot more fresh. That's why I think this is a good pick for the Falcons. They were great against the run. This gives them a little bit more of an edge.
So, there was only a team that did a little bit better than the Atlanta Falcons last year. And that's the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, who are on the clock with the 31st and final first-round pick. We'll go to Denver when we return.
Come here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
The new Silverado interior is so big, there's plenty of room for seating. And, in a pinch,
Mommy said I could ride the pony.
Ample room for sleeping. Introducing Silverado, the truck from Chevrolet.
Like a rock, oh, like a rock.
Now 100% of the people can get on the internet. When you buy a Gateway Essential PC with a 400 megahertz Intel Celeron processor as low as $37 a month, we'll give you a year on the internet. Call, click, or come in. We know the internet is calling you.
So you need a mortgage.
Yeah, but we don't really have any, collateral.
Well, no collateral's really not a problem for us. In fact, that's our motto. All right, once you sign here and you're all set.
This is actually more than we need.
Yeah, I threw in a little extra.
So what's the interest rate?
0, if that